Joining us now are the hosts of the Old Man and the Three podcast, JJ Redick and Tommy Alter. Folks, welcome to Takeline. It's so great to have you.
It's great to be here. This is like a new thing for Tommy and I, where we get to go on podcasts together. This is our second invite. This is a big deal.
I don't really understand it. I don't know why people invite us. Why do people invite us places? I don't get it.
Why do people invite us places? Coming from Tommy Alter, that is a wild statement.
Tommy got invited to do, I think it was the Pelicans podcast this past winter as like a solo guest. And it was, I'm not going to lie, like it was like a proud dad moment for me. I was super stoked.
That. It was a great experience. Shout out to, I don't remember their names, but those guys were good guys. Shout out to them.
Well, Game 3 was this Sunday. Bucks finally showed that they have some offensive punch outside of Giannis. Do you think that anything that happened in that game changed the tenor of this series at all?
JJ.
You're
yeah, I'm asking either
Tommy,
of you.
You can jump in.
JJ, chime in.
I have to be honest about something.
Okay, I love it.
And I knew we were going to talk about the playoffs, the finals. So yesterday afternoon, and it had been planned for a couple weeks, we hosted in our backyard basically an oyster truck, except it was a boat planted in our yard.
Okay.
And originally it was going to be like our neighbors. You know, we've got to know people in our neighborhood. We were going to have our neighbors over. And then it was like, should we invite this person? Should we invite that person? Before you know it, it was like a party of 40 people. Anyways, it was 4-7. I had the game lined up, ready to go. One thing led to another. And we started drinking. I started opening up some bottles of wine. We have some cigars here. I'm not a big cigar smoker, but I passed out some cigars. And next thing I know, I'm like, all right, I'm going to go watch the game. And the game was fucking over.
What?
It was like 10:45. I watched some highlights today.
To be fair, the game was over in like the second quarter. So yeah, you could have been an hour late, and you wouldn't have missed anything. For the record,
JJ's just
but
like,
was
you know what?
Was the party turned though?
Was it turned?
I mean,
yeah, we actually we live. So we have a place in Sag Harbor, and it's like these tiny lots. And so, like, when you turn music on outside, like, the whole neighborhood can hear the music. So we had one neighbor who came over a couple times and asked us to keep it down. But keep in mind, this was on a Sunday at like 6:30 in the evening. And, like, I know the neighbor. He doesn't have young children. So I don't know why he was being such a curmudgeon. I don't know why he was being a curmudgeon.
You just got to
be like, okay. Disrespectful. It wasn't like we were playing EDM.
Pre 10 p.m. Pre 10 p.m. Yeah, pre 10 p.m. That behavior is not acceptable.
I know. I didn't invite the guy. There were some neighbors we left out. I'm not going to lie.
Well, you know what? He's definitely not getting invited now.
You threw a block party. That's what that's called. You know that, right? Like,
yes, I know.
And you didn't invite your neighbors to the block party.
Not all the neighbors. Not all the neighbors. I didn't invite all the neighbors.
Oh, wow.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow.
Correct.
Wow.
We had leftover oysters. We should have just been more inclusive. We should have been more inclusive.
Okay, so then you didn't watch the game, and that's fine because you guys were flexing that hard and not inviting the Hamptons neighbors to the party, but. You know, you guys are podcasters. JJ, you were an active NBA player who has a podcast. I am personally curious, like, how have you managed to balance that with your kind of like your day job, and how have you managed to like integrate that into your daily routine?
Yeah, you know, at times it's a little bit of a challenge, especially in season. What we did and realized last year was, you know, it works really well if we just sort of have a day we record. So we like to record in the off season on Monday and Tuesday, and we get it done. And then we have the rest of the week, and then we start thinking about this upcoming week, you know, who we have on, what we're going to talk about on Sundays. But during the season, it's hit or miss. And as you guys probably can attest, like, NBA players back out of podcasts on a weekly basis. I mean, there's some weeks where you book like 2 or 3 people just because I need a backup here because I know this person might cancel. And Tommy does a lot of the booking. Kylie, who works for us, does a lot of the booking as well. But like we have people cancel all the time. It's a challenge. And I get it. Like, you know, we had Drew Holiday cancel twice on us because, you know, flights got canceled. He didn't get into his hotel room till 10:30. He had a game the next day. I don't want to record the night before a game at 11 o'clock. I'm not going to make my guests do it.
Right.
I'll also say this: when we started the Old Man and the Three and 342 out of the bubble in August, and it was like the only sort of thing like this coming out of the bubble. And what was most amazing about that, in retrospect, was we actually were grabbing guys right after games. Nobody right before a game. No one where it was like it was going to distract them from the game itself. But I remember the first episode we did with Dame, and it was like the first week of August or something like that in the bubble. And Dame didn't have a game that day, but JJ had we were taping at like 9 Eastern or something, and JJ had a game at 5 Eastern. It was like sometime in the afternoon. And so we were like, okay, we're going to be fine. Basically, like, because it's the hotel was very close to the court, so there's obviously not traffic or anything like that. But by like the game went into overtime or something, there was something where the game was going long, and it was like 8:30, and the game, JJ was walking off the court. The Pelicans were walking off the court. And I remember like Dame got on the Zoom. We were all on the Zoom early. He was on like 15 minutes early. And he's like, are we going to be like, I just watched that game. Like, there's no way we're starting this thing at 9:00. And he was texting us and Chris, our producer, the whole time. He basically like, I'm coming. Ended up pulling up at like 9:02 or something like that. So like wasn't even late.
Luckily, we weren't allowed to shower in the bubble. We weren't allowed to shower after
it
games.
was straight off the court.
Quick turnaround from Jersey off on the bus. It was like 10-minute turnaround.
That was a good episode too. Ended up.
I would say this: like people on social media like to talk shit. If you have a couple bad games, they're like, stop podcasting. You turn into a full-time podcaster now. I was hurt a lot of the second half of the season, so I heard all that shit. I've recorded on a game day twice. Once was with Dame in the bubble, and we had already said he was going to be our first episode. We had to record. The other time was in London after we played the Celtics. Me and Kyrie sat down with some wine and we talked about conspiracy theories. And so there's only 2 times that
was a late one. That was a 2 a.m. That was a 2 a.m. start.
That was the only 2 times I've ever recorded on a game day. I've never not taken extra shots or not gotten in the cold tub. Yeah, but I'm saying I've never not, even on a practice day or whatever in season, like I've never not gotten in the cold tub or not done my weightlifting or not taken my extra shots to do a podcast. I get all my basketball work in. The podcast, of course, is secondary, but it is sort of like a second fulltime job.
I will say
haters.
We have a show on our network with Duncan Robinson called The Long Shot, a really good show. Duncan and his co-host Davis started it in January. And the thing that Duncan and JJ, they have a lot of things in common basketball-wise, obviously, but one of the things they both have in common personality-wise is they're very regimented. And so they're very much like, we do things at a certain time. We don't show up late. We come here. Obviously, things happen, and sometimes things get thrown off. But there are a lot of guys in the league who are not necessarily like that. And so we're not like, I'm not sure necessarily that we'll do another show with an active player. Like, I'm not sure that there's other people that necessarily can sort of put up with the pressure that comes with doing something like this. You have to have a certain type of personality to really be able to kind of juggle these things and pull it off. Renee would know something about that, I would say.
Yeah,
like, you know how to juggle a lot of stuff.
You're preaching to the choir. And Tommy, look, you're a writer, a producer, entrepreneur. So like why was this podcast with JJ like a project that you wanted to be a part of? Like, what brought you in the fold for this?
That's a great question. I've actually never asked Tommy this question, so I'm excited to hear this answer.
Well, JJ brought me into the fold. I even only ended up on the show because JJ called me and was like, well, we would always do mailbags and stuff like that, and they would always be fun, and people would seem to like them. But JJ, is, as you guys know from the show, is very good at hosting it. He doesn't exactly need a second guy there just like blabbing in, and when he's talking to different people. And so he asked me if I wanted to do it. I think the main thing that in terms of this the show, before we get to the company, the show itself, I think the thing that I can do if I'm doing my job the right way is keep the ball moving. And because JJ's so prepared for everything that he does, sometimes to his own detriment, he gets so over prepped for everything. There would be times where we would have guests on and he would get stressed out because he's like, I'm not prepared enough. When in reality, he could have just gone and winged it and it would have been fine. And so it's nice to have like a safety valve of somebody else there who can talk and not necessarily have to be. It's like hard, if you guys know this, you interview people. Yeah. It's hard to do a one-on-one thing for an hour if you don't feel like you really are like locked 100%. In on the subject. So that's kind of how we got started, you know, with the show. And then the company was just a natural outgrowth, I think, of the show. With, you know, we've had some success, obviously. And I think a big thing with the company itself, once we realized we could tape remotely, that allowed us to expand our horizons a little bit, because we were doing everything in person, and obviously in person is better, but we're doing everything in person pre-COVID, and it's not sustained. What we're talking about with the NBA schedule is not sustainable to do the number of shows that we would have to do if we had to do everything in person. It's just impossible. So even with a guest schedule, it's even worse. So that I think allowed us to basically realize there might be something here.
Okay, so JJ, you came with the skill set is what he said, just so you know, since you never heard him say it, he knew he wasn't going to have to hold your hand. But
he's heard me say it. He's heard me say it. He just likes getting it out again. He's pretending like this is like a new statement.
Okay, but then, all right, so what I want to know then is, one, how does Lil Yachty end up on your show? And what did he have to say about Interstellar? Like, I got to know. Let's go. Let's hear it.
First of all, a lot of people ask us this, like, they're like, how do you and Tommy know each other? Did you go to college together? Do you know whatever? And I'm like, no, I met Tommy in a parking lot. Like, literally met him in a parking lot in 2016. It's true.
What?
It's true.
It's true.
LA parking lots. You never know what's going to happen.
Parking lot pimping? What's going on?
It's a longer story. We'll get to that. That's the second time we come on. We'll get to that story.
So I think what we've shown with the pod is just the range. You know, we've had on some incredible guests. Stacey Abrams was our second guest. We had on Bob Iger. We had on Coach K. You know, it's just a natural outgrowth of the show that we're just gonna go into different fields. The Lil Yachty thing was completely because I saw I wasn't even following him on Twitter, but someone had retweeted his tweet about Interstellar. And as anybody who knows me knows, I think Interstellar is the greatest movie ever. It's the greatest film ever made.
Wow.
And he feels the same way. And he said he'd watched it 983 times, blah, blah, blah. And so I said something back, and then he said something back to me. And then we were like, Kylie, let's get Lil Yachty on the show. And like within like 2 days, we had scheduled and recorded it. So it was like this.
Yeah, it was like 40,
he was like 48 awesome
hours
on the show. But basically what he said was like that he cries every time. He has the same feeling I do. Like this is my feeling on Interstellar. It is the greatest combination of storytelling, visual effects, and a soundtrack, a score. And Christopher Nolan he's a master at his craft. And so the combination of those three things, I love that movie so much. I love it so much.
Oh my gosh. I'm adding it to the list. Gotta watch it. Adding it to the list. I'm sorry I haven't yet, but every time I hear people talk about it, I have to go watch it. That's all I'll say.
You mentioned, JJ, meeting Tommy in a parking lot, which I think is probably a similar experience to the It explains a lot about the Tommy Alter experience. Tommy Alter, for those of you who do not know, is a person who just knows more.
Going?
He just knows more people than anyone else. Like, he's a person who knows a lot of people. So I've always wanted to ask Tommy, like, what is the secret to just like meeting 1 million people? Like, how do you do it? What is the secret sauce of Tommy Alter?
Well, I don't think it's a secret. I meet a lot of people because I keep myself pretty busy, and I'm in a bunch of different. I've been in a bunch of different worlds, you know, in the past, whether it be like the entertainment world or the sports world or whatever maybe. But I think that one thing, and JJ and I both have this in common, and we have a friend, Sean Feeney, who is also really good at this, who works in like the food space. He's in New York. He has a bunch of restaurants in Brooklyn. Is you basically realize that a lot of people are who do certain things are interested in other fields. You know, they're not necessarily insular. So it's like people in the food space are interested in sports. The joke is always like all rappers want to be NBA players and vice versa, and that's definitely true. Or most, I don't know if you guys realize JJ used to rap, so JJ actually wanted to be a rapper, so he's not an exception to this rule. But a lot of rappers want to be NBA players and vice versa. But there's a common thread with that in a lot of different fields. And I think basically, like, you know, like putting people together and figuring out ways of doing sort of fun stuff that, you know, are additive to people. I mean, there's not like a secret to the sauce or anything like that. It's really just kind of dumb luck more than anything.
Some of it is that, but Tommy's a connector. You know, Tommy is a connector of people. Sean, our friend that he mentioned, is the same way. I have become that later on in life. I enjoy getting to meet people, connecting them with other people that I think they, you know, would like to meet. We've had these dinners last summer in New York. We did like 5 or 6 of these, and I mean the randomness of the room.
Yeah,
it'd be like 15, 20 people, and you know, it'd be like Tommy's friend Anna Kendrick, and then like French Montana would show up, you know, and we'd have dinner with like all of us, and then Jimmy Fallon would come in. I'm not trying to name drop either. I'm just saying like these are people. That's what it is. No, but these are people that Tommy knows. Like it's just it's so weird.
Yeah.
You know what? Here's the deal with Tommy.
But the funny thing is, you also don't tell, like, it's not like I'm not gonna be like, yo, come
saying
to
it to brag. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like in Tommy's world is very large.
I'm saying after the fact, it's fine. I'm saying like I don't say like come to dinner. Anna Kendrick's gonna be there because
right, he's never said that.
Yeah, that makes it lame if you do that.
I wasn't saying
that's not.
That at all.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't take it that way. I took it as you never know who's gonna pop up at a Tommy dinner. That's how I took it.
Never
like
know.
You never know, and that's. I mean, there's something. Yeah.
He's also like, so Tommy, for our listeners, because I get asked this a lot, like who, you know, I'll be out on the golf course and people will be like, so I listen to your podcast, who's Tommy? Who is he? Like, what does he do? Like, what's his backstory? And no one really knows. It's shrouded in mystery.
Man. He's a mysterious
and he
man.
likes it that way.
I don't need to spell it out. There's no, if you spell it out too much, it becomes like weird. Like
I knew Tommy for like 3.5 years. This was probably like 6 months before we started our own thing, and like I didn't even know where he went to college. Like I found out.
Or how old I was. He didn't even know how old I was, and then and then he decides to like blab about it to everybody. So now I have people coming out of the woodwork every 3 days. He just like decides to
just the internet. Not everybody, just the internet.
I'll tell you what I think it is with the secret sauce, if there is such a thing, for Tommy, who is a friend of mine, is that, you know, in the kind of spaces that y'all run in, there's just like a lot of people that you meet who are trying to get you to do something or pitch you. I have never seen Tommy try to pitch anybody on anything. He's just like, I think you would like this person. That's it. And to me, that's like the sauce. Like, I think you two would vibe. That's the extent of it. It's never, I have an opportunity. It's never anything like that. It's just like you two would get along. I think you would do something cool if you guys decided to do something cool. That's all it is.
Yeah. I love it.
It's very unassuming, and there's no hidden agenda.
Jason, you should be.
I think you're spot on, Jason.
Jason, you should be my manager.
Back to basketball for a second.
Oh, right.
There's been recently turmoil within the Dallas Mavericks front office has reached the news. JJ, you've been in the league a long time. You've been a part of teams that have had like off-court stuff and turmoil be part of the headlines surrounding these teams. Like how normal or abnormal is the kind of discourse around the Mavs or any of the teams you've been around? How normal is that? Like how normal is disagreements, turmoil behind the scenes?
It's a really great question. Let me first just say that in my 2 months and change with Dallas, I didn't experience any turmoil whatsoever. I'm dead serious. Like, I had a great experience with Dallas. I don't know, you know, I'm a free agent this summer, obviously. I don't know what my future holds, but like I would go back and be a Mav. Like I had a great experience. I left with a great feeling. And obviously Rick has moved on and Donnie's moved on. So I didn't experience any turmoil there. But I always tell people this, like in the NBA, it's like, it's just drama at your job. Like I've played 15 years. Like I can think of maybe 2 years where there wasn't like a lot of drama at my job. And I've talked to a few guys who were, you know, in that Warriors run, specifically like, you know, 15 16, that first year with Kevin, and they're just like, it wasn't the NBA. It wasn't real life. It was a fantasy world for like 3 or 4 years. Yeah, and so, you know, when I've had those experiences, like my first year in Philly, I'll say, like, it wasn't like, no season's ever perfect. But my first year in Philly, when you have a season like that, where it's just like the right group, right time, all that stuff, you're so appreciative of it. Because you can bring the same group back the next year.
Yep.
And Renee, you know this, like somebody's going to be a free agent the next year. Somebody may want to take a step forward in their career. Somebody may get moved from starting lineup to the bench. Like there's all these variables that happen year to year, even with the same group of people. And so when you're in that moment, like I was that first year in Philly, like when you're in that moment and it's so good, you appreciate it so much because it's not normal. Normal in the NBA is just drama. And, you know, we asked
JJ, thank you.
Who did we
Okay,
ask,
let me tell
Tommy? Hold on, Tommy. We asked somebody recently
yeah.
on the pod about this, and I was like, "How did you figure out this season? Because the season sucked. Like the season sucked.
Yeah.
It felt like there was drama on every team. Everybody's dealing with COVID, all this stuff." And he's like, "I just thought about going to work every day and doing my job, and like that's basically what you got to do in the NBA."
Okay, so JJ, I'm glad you said that because with my team, the Atlanta Dream, some of our dirty laundry was aired on the internet.
Yes, it
We've
was.
had to suspend a player. There's been different things going on, but can you just, because obviously I'm speaking from an ownership position, so people think that I'm just like, of course you would say that when I tell them that teams have drama. Like I've made it a public statement about how this is very normal. Teams have drama, players have drama. Usually it doesn't get out to the world for people to report on, but can you just speak, Tommy? You know everybody too. So like people don't understand the dynamic of drama is a very normal thing in sports.
It's interesting too, because I feel like sometimes drama is overblown at times in the media. Like, you know, what's
an example of that? Yeah.
So, well, I don't want to throw anybody into the bus because I know the writer, but like there was something written earlier this year about a specific team, and I knew for a fact that it was overblown. Whatever. And then there's stuff where you're like, how the fuck does that ever not get out? Like, how in 2021, like, I'm sitting on this information for weeks and no one is going to put this out. Like, it's crazy.
And you're waiting on the bomb to drop.
Yeah,
like you're waiting on the info to just
somebody's going to
explode.
put it out.
Somebody's getting fired. But no, so I loved hearing you say that so casually. Like, look, in sports on different teams, there's that casualness of there's going to be a little bit of drama. So, but we know something. Okay, there's drama at the college ranks too, but you played under Coach K at Duke for 4 years. Now, everybody knows I loved Coach Auriemma. I have an affinity, but I know that you and Coach K had a relationship too. So how has the announcement that this will be his last season, like how has that impacted you?
I'm actually happy for him. I'm happy for him because, you know, again, he's been there 40 plus years, and that's a hard thing. It's inevitable that you've got to let go of it at some time, but it's a hard thing to let go of. And I'm happy for him that he's going to be able to, you know, enjoy the rest of his life and live a long life and get to drink wine and do his gardening. I'm happy for him and all that. You know, it's so interesting. We have such a like a bond with all the players. Like I'm friends with guys that were on his first team back in 1980, and you know it's a recruiting thing. It's whatever. It's called the brotherhood, but like it actually is pretty real. And so because of Coach, because he's been sort of that link, just like Gino at UConn, you know, you have these friendships with guys like Quinn Snyder. He graduated in 1989 or whatever it was, you know, and he's a friend, and it's because of Coach and just the bond that he's built over those years.
Tommy, you're the co-founder of the More Than a Vote initiative. You just talk about like why that was important and how what it took to get that up and running and
well, I feel like Renee. I mean, I'll talk about it. Renee can talk about it better than I.
No,
I feel,
you talk about
I feel
it,
like
Tommy,
being
okay?
like I'm not exactly because I'm blabbing on about this thing when Renee's sitting on the Zoom. I will just say that there are a lot of people.
I would like like to know, how did it become about? Like, you being at the forefront of it. Like, how did it become about? Yes, I became a part of it, but I wouldn't have been able to be a part of it if you weren't a part of building it.
Well, I mean, it's really not. It wasn't. It's less me. It's more the crew around LeBron. I think Maverick in particular, but there's a bunch of different people around LeBron made a concerted effort, I'd say, a year and a half ago or whatever, to basically try to like harness his social reach and everything like that to drive political awareness. And I think everybody was like, this is a good idea, we should do this, and then the big thing was they hired a guy, Adisu Demisi, who was a political
Yeah,
he's like he's a political guy. He knows John and Tommy and the crooked guys and everything like that. And I think we actually met him through them, and they decided to hire him, and he probably deserves the lion's share of the credit in terms of, the stadium ideas and basically like using the reach of athletes and artists and things like that to actually impact real political change. Because it's one thing to just tweet out like a photo being like, oh, register to vote or something like that. Like, that's not a bad thing. Anything is good. But I think that one of the things that was really cool about the organization, and Renee's obviously one of the better examples of this, is making an actual impact to the point where, politicians on whether it was the other side of the aisle or just like people who were not happy that this was happening were infuriated at the success that it was having. You know what I mean? It's one thing to just be like, it wasn't even like a shut up and dribble type thing. It was like, no, this is actually annoying. Like, they're actually driving real numbers to the polls and stuff like that. And so, I mean, I think it's cool in retrospect, because I don't think anybody when it started was like, this is definitely going to work.
That's what I was going to ask you. Did you know it was going to blow like that?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. But hopefully we can do something like that again. I feel like that's I don't know whether it be for midterms or for in 2024, but it definitely exceeded, I think, everybody's expectations.
Finally,
more
JJ,
than a vote, run it back.
I have a question about the drama thing you're talking about, because
good.
This is like a media NBA internet question type thing. Don't you think, and JJ, you should chime in if you whether this has affected you or not specifically. A lot of times people will take things and they'll like so-and-so is not included in a photo or something like that, and they'll just run with it, and they'll be like, oh, they must not like each other because they're not here. Things like that are based on literally nothing. Nobody's saying anything. No one and no sort of. And I mean, obviously people are going to use background sources and off the record stuff, and that happens in all types of journalism. But I do think with the NBA internet, it's gotten, and I don't even dislike, I mean, it's fun, but it also has gotten crazy where people just draw conclusions over the smallest things, and they're like constantly saying like, oh, so-and-so is shading this person, and like, all right, maybe they are, but also you kind of don't know.
100%. I'll just jump in there. I've seen things where players might literally be good friends, but the internet has made them not friends because of photos and whatever storyline. I've seen a lot. I've been like, yo, y'all, I'll go into the locker room. See, I'm the type that I'll walk into the locker room. If I read it on the internet, I'll look at them and be like, yo, y'all good? There's a lot of talk going on out there. Everything all right? Because I'm going to bring it up and bring it to the forefront. Like, I'm hearing y'all don't like each other. Should we move the lockers? What's up? But yeah, I think that a lot of people, when you don't know what's going on, they're just going to run with anything they can see on the internet. What you think, JJ?
I was going to chime in here. So this is a very, very small example, very small, and it's not even important. And I'm only saying it because it happened to me recently. But like, there was this storyline that like I didn't want to be in Dallas, blah blah blah, all because of what I said on my podcast was basically like, David Griffin and I had an agreement. He didn't honor his agreement. Mm-hmm. Whatever. That's all I said. It wasn't an inclusive thing that like because of that I didn't want to be in Dallas. They were different than each other. So anyways, I get hurt. We got like 3 games left. I get hurt in Memphis, and I've been battling this heel injury for months. I get hurt in Memphis. I was going home on Thursday. An off day to see my wife for her birthday and take her to Lucali for pizza, which we've done for 5 straight years. So I'm going home on Thursday to see her. I show up to the gym on Wednesday, and Rick says to me, you don't need to be here. You're out for the season. Why don't you just go home today? I was like, great, I'll go home today. So I had booked a flight back at like 6 a.m. on Friday so that I could be in the team photo. When I got to New York and saw the doctor on Thursday morning, and he was like, yeah, you need surgery. If you want to play, you need surgery. And I was like, okay. So I called the team, and Rick's like, I don't give a fuck about the team photo. Like, don't worry about coming back. He's like, but go be with your family for a few days and then come back for the playoffs. I was like, great, I'll do that. So they take the photo. I'm not in the photo, and it just like fuels this. JJ doesn't want to be. Where's JJ? He doesn't want to be in Dallas.
I already know.
You know? It's like what
the internet
fuck?
Exploded.
It's like what about stupid stuff like that? I mean, so that's on a very like small scale, but like for some of these guys who are the face of the franchise, or in some cases the face of the league, it's constant, and like I actually feel bad for him. And if you're in the wrong media market as well, it's even worse.
Oh, it's even worse. Listen, they are JJ Redick and Tommy Alton. Their podcast is The Old Man and the Three. I'm a fan of the show. Thanks so much for joining us on Takeline, guys.
JJ, Knicks need shooting. Knicks need shooting. You already live on Long Island, JJ. I'm just saying.
I can't.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Jason, don't start rumors. Don't start rumors. Don't answer that. Don't say anything.
I'm just saying that out loud. That's all I just wanted to say.